right. We are here for a very special episode of Taylor Primetime. Yes, it's for the first time we are doing it in studio. We're filming it. But
in studio?
We'll call this in studio, right?
It's his
we're
studio.
All together.
Yeah. His design
We're
studio.
in my shop.
It's in shop. That's right. Bob doesn't call the factory. He calls it his shop, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's
So
a
we're
workshop.
in your shop. We're calling it also a studio at this moment. Super excited to have Bob is a regular. He's been on a few times. Andy is a regular. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got Taylor co-founder Kurt Listug here with us. Kurt, we finally got you on the show.
And what did it take, Jay?
It took everything.
It took me selling my complete interest in the company. I no longer own any part of the company.
Exactly. Okay. So this one time I sent Kurt a text and I said, hey, would you be interested in jumping on Primetime this week? And he said, nope. All right. Well, we got him here. Thank you so much, Kurt. So hat of the day. I'm wearing a Cubs hat. It's the July 4th Independence Day hat from 2021. Cubs hat for Kurt. Kurt and I have a Cubs bond. We'll maybe talk about that in sports
my
later.
folks.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
The way this works, Kurt, Primetime, I'm sure you watch the show religiously, but we have a couple of segments up front. One of them is called Hug Your Haters, and that is if anybody in the comments wants to say anything mean or throw some shade towards us a little bit, and we just reach out with some love, and they're just raising their hand. They may have had a bad day, right? Mm-hmm. We got no hate this week, so we can move on past that.
Really?
Yeah, none.
I wonder why that is.
Well, Andy made V-Class years ago, so I think they're over that.
They were cranky about that.
Right.
Too bad the guitars are still fun.
Yeah, the guitars are amazing. So, all right. So then we do a segment called What Are You Listening To? It's pretty simple. We go around in a circle and tell each other what we've been listening to lately. So because you are the newest guest on Taylor Primetime, we would love it if you would tell us what you've been listening to lately.
People have no idea what I listened to. What I was listening to this weekend was a live Led Zeppelin album called How the West Was Won. That was recorded in 72, concerts in L.A. and Long Beach, which is an awesome live Led Zeppelin album. And in my car, believe it or not, I've never really been a Miles Davis fan, but I found a Sirius Miles Davis channel that I love listening to when I drive this particular hot rod Porsche that I have. Something about the juxtaposition of the two works really well together.
Miles Davis. I love some Miles Davis. Bob, what have you been listening to?
Pretty much all of it.
All of it, yeah.
I've been listening to Jason Isbell, but I also played about 25 times in a row this YouTube of Weezer and Sarah Bareilles sing this. What's the song? If you want to know, or I Ain't Got All Night. I don't know the name of the song. I just dig the song. It's just over and over and over. I play songs 50 times in a row.
Just repeat.
I love it when that happens, when you can't get enough of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a good song. Yeah. It's a good song, and the two of them together are just awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a Weezer fan.
I just sort of became one once I stumbled across that. YouTube. It's a great librarian. Just put it out to me.
Do you listen to most of your music on YouTube? Do you watch most of your music?
I watch a lot of my music.
Right?
I find music on my iPhone. I say YouTube's the best librarian out there. They're like, oh, you're interested in this? How about that?
Bob Taylor.
I'm going to hand deliver this to you because of something you showed me you liked last week.
It's true.
Oh, we're going to dive into the algorithm in a minute, Andy. Andy, what have you been listening to?
This morning was Steel Drivers. Drivers. They're so good. I mean, every musician in that band is awesome. It's a really good band. And then there was a little bit of McCoy Tyner, a little bit of Miles Davis, kind of got a
little bit of Miles Davis.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
What's your favorite Miles Davis tune? Do you have a favorite?
No.
No?
No, you don't get to do that game because you can only say the best song ever written like a dozen times about a dozen different songs.
Right.
So, but okay, I will say the Kind of Blue record is a landmark recording for good reason. I don't really need to say more than that, but it really is that good.
I mean, it's Miles Davis.
Yeah.
It's Miles Davis.
Yeah.
Do you like Miles Davis?
Yeah.
On YouTube. He likes Miles Davis on YouTube.
When YouTube offers it up, but I got to get into the realm
Right.
of that kind of stuff before she offers it to me.
Okay, so then a really good place to start if you're going to go down the YouTube rabbit hole and you want to use them as a librarian, start with Art Blakey.
With what?
Art Blakey and Jazz Messengers.
There you go.
And it'll start pulling up some really hipster stuff.
Cool.
That's
yeah,
cool.
that's a good. Just look for any of the live videos that you could find for old footage. There's a vast trove of good stuff.
Right on.
Super cool.
Well, what have I been listening to? Andy, I'm still stuck. The last time we had you on Primetime 2 weeks ago, I believe, 3 weeks ago. At this time, by the time this airs, 3 weeks ago. And I was stuck listening to Elvis live at Stax, and I'm still stuck listening to Elvis live at Stax. It's magical. I'm stuck.
When was that recorded?
When? I don't know when. Where? Stax. But when? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
Somebody in the comments dropped
I'd
that.
say, and it would be wrong probably.
Yeah. I just listened to it. I turned it on.
You know what'll help unstick you though?
What?
Dusty in Memphis. Dusty Springfield in Memphis. Go find that record. Look for all the bonus
Oh, I
tracks
love
on
that
it.
record.
Oh my gosh.
I love her. I love that record too.
All right.
So good.
Yeah.
Fix my issue right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go do
That'll
that. There's
help.
also an Elvis movie coming out, which I'm excited about. I just learned just before we hit record.
Really?
My wife sent me a text with a trailer for an Elvis movie that
I
I'm
got to
excited
work on
about.
one of his guitars once.
Yeah.
You did?
Cool.
Yeah, it was like, oh, maybe there's still like some DNA on the fretboard. It was really cool.
Wow, awesome.
All right.
I was nearly trembling. It was so amazing. Yeah, it was a real thrill for me, actually. Like way more so than I would have expected. Just any old guitar.
That connection.
But it was like,
It's a physical
Elvis
connection.
played this guitar. Elvis
Yeah.
actually played on this.
It's awesome.
All right. So we've got, why did I bring all these gentlemen together? We've got 3 pieces of really important information to pass on through to you guys. But let's back up just a little bit. So December 31st, 2020, you guys transitioned ownership of the company to us, the employees. I'd love to chat about that just for a minute as I've got all of you at the table. What was the reasoning? What was the purpose behind doing that?
For the company to survive into the future the way we wanted it to.
That's it.
He said it.
That's it.
That's it in a nutshell. Because there's no other mechanism that we could think of that would enable us to continue doing the work that we love for the reasons that we love doing it and have that last beyond our own lifespans.
Well put. Now, it's been a year and a half since you transitioned.
Well, not only that, but for the people for the people to benefit
Yeah.
the most from the ownership, we wanted it to be our employees, not a financial group or a different company, because the employees are the ones that do the work every day.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
employees are the ones that got us here. They
Yep.
they understand this company.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, in any organization, there's
yeah,
people that work here, and then there's people that understand the company.
Right.
yeah.
And there's people that really understand the strategic plan of the company. And we don't want someone coming in sideways who has a new plan for the company, some new kind of plan, which usually entails whip it like a racehorse, double its value in 5 years and sell it. That's
Right.
usually what happens. Well, that would be the ruination of us. And some companies survive for generations because they move from family member to family member to family member. Even that has a possibility of changing, and even we have a possibility to change as personalities change. But our company is pretty cohesive. We know what we're trying to do. And, well, you're an employee of this company. You know what we're trying to do. And I would imagine, you could testify, I imagine that it feels good to think that, as Kurt and I reached that go off in the sunset age, that's a while for me,
What about me?
Well, it's all up to you.
Okay.
I don't mean die. I mean maybe
Drive
be interested
faster.
in something else,
Right.
But it seems that employees are happy that we can continue on with our goals.
Because there are a lot of things that we could do differently, that we could have been doing differently to grow faster, have more sales, make more money, but those aren't paths that we wanted to go down. And that different ownership would go down those because there are obvious things that they could do, like use the brand to make more lower end products, say made in Asia or something, or open a lot more music stores selling our guitars, which would be okay. It would lower the profitability for the stores. I think you can be over distributed. So there are various things that could be done that other companies would do because they would have to grow the company to make the investment in Taylor Guitars pay off for them.
Yes. So it's been a year and a half, Andy. How do you think it's going?
I think it's amazing. I mean, it's been, with so many aspects of the pandemic era, it's the best of times. It's the worst of times. It's all of it, right? It's all of the emotions. It's difficult to get materials. It's difficult to get tools. It's amazing because people want to stay home and play guitar. It's horrible because people just want to stay home and play guitar. It's all of it. Yeah. And so it's been amazing, but it's been a genuine thrill to watch how our own employees have responded to this change and realize, man, this is a purpose that we can get behind. This is work that has meaning. It's not for some people, working here at Taylor Guitars, it's a paycheck. I get it. It's a factory job for some folks, and maybe they came into it for one reason. Sometimes they change their minds and they stay. Sometimes they don't. But for a disproportionate number of people here, we love this company. We love doing this work. It's a work that we can feel proud of. It's a work that we can feel like we're having an impact and making a difference for people. There's a lot to love about this. And so I think mostly for the last 18 months, it's been all of that we've loved, only more so.
And don't get us wrong, we're growth oriented.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right,
so,
100%.
so if anyone's listening, don't think, oh, well, Taylor did this so that they could stay a small little company. We're not a small little company. We're a big company and we're growing. Mm-hmm. And even this transition requires that we grow. But it's us growing for ourselves, not somebody else pushing us to grow for themselves. It's a totally different thing. It's the difference between working for somebody and working for yourself. Everybody I know who's an entrepreneur works 80 hours a week.
Right.
And, they're working all the time, but they're like, yeah, but I'm doing it for myself. It's okay. So we didn't get to here by not being aggressive in our growth. We set goals every year, we grow, and we'll continue to do that. And I think it's worth saying that we're not trying to say by not selling one day to a, private equity firm or something like that we're trying to keep from getting too big.
Yeah.
No.
We like this business.
We want to do our work.
We want to do it.
Yeah.
We just want to do it the way we want to do it.
Yeah, two parts to it. How's it gone for the employees in the company? Great, as Andy was saying. How's it gone for the shareholders that sold, which is primarily me and Bob, because we own most of the company? Really perfect. It's the perfect transition for us because we're still involved. Our roles have been diminishing a little bit, which was the plan all along, giving more responsibility to other employees. We were able to have a sale that we wanted to have without, just being kicked out the door and then be bummed to see the company get screwed up according to, our own viewpoints of what we wanted to have happen for the company. So from both perspectives, I'd say as good as it could be.
And I can say, as an employee who really benefited from this, it's very exciting to be the second generation of Taylor Guitars. Not a lot of people get to say, not a lot of an employee group gets to say, we're the second generation of Taylor Guitars, which is great.
Yeah, that's
we're
amazing.
grateful. I'm grateful. Thank you guys for that as you're all here.
And you have a statement that says what your shares are worth.
And we have a statement that
Yep.
says what our shares are worth, which is it's super exciting. I think it has also hyper focused us to grow, to want to be better and grow as a group, which is also very exciting. So it's halfway through 2022, and we are about to participate in NAMM in person for the first time in a couple of years. How do you guys feel about that? You guys went to NAMM in the early days, we'll say. How do you feel about going to NAMM this year, Kurt?
I'm excited to see what it's going to be like, and by people's reaction to it and how well supported it is, because the world's changed so much the last couple of years. I hope it's still embraced similarly to how it has been over the years.
Totally.
I mean, I've seen NAMM grow from, my first NAMM was at the Marriott at the LAX. That was the first.
Really?
Yeah, which was before it moved to Disneyland Hotel, which was before the Anaheim Convention Center got built. So, I mean, it's grown tremendously. It was a teeny little show. The big show was the summer show in Chicago. That ended up, imploding at one point. This became the big show. So it's an evolution. So, we'll see what's going to happen with this stage of the evolution.
National Association of Music Merchants.
Right.
You guys have been doing it for a long time. So usually, Taylor, in true Taylor form, we have a new product launch that happens around NAMM or some big exciting news. So guys, I think we should let the cat out of the bag. We have a very, very special and exciting announcement. Bob, Kurt, I'm going to need a little help with this one.
Okay.
In fact, whoever would like to take the information here, we have Mr. Andy Powers here. Do you have anything you want to let the world know? Exciting news for Taylor Guitars?
Yeah, Andy's the new in charge of everything with the company.
Kurt and I have been partners for close to 50 years. And Kurt has taken care of the marketing, the finance, those business relationships.
Sales.
Right? Sales. And I take care of the product and the factory and how we build it. And we've often wondered, how many people is it going to take to replace us? 6, 8, 10?
Right.
Turns out to be 1. So Andy is now taking the role of chief guitar designer because he's been that, and we're adding president and CEO to his title.
Chief Guitar Designer, President, and CEO. Okay, time out. What does this mean for you guys? Bob, Kurt, what does this mean? How will your roles change?
Our roles are changing to senior advisor. And you start, sometimes you think about my role, well, what does my business card say? So it'll probably say co-founder, senior advisor. I come to work every day.
Every day.
I demanded that
Well,
he was
I'll-
here
I'll-
at 8 o'clock this morning, so.
And I was late, 15 minutes. I had to get a bad interim review.
Yeah, you don't want a bad review.
No.
Not from the. Do you call him the new guy? What do you call him now?
What do I call Andy? I call him Andy.
Just Andy.
That's my name. It's always
Oh,
worked
okay.
really well.
How will your role change, Kurt?
Actually similar to how it's been, because I established these areas of the company. I figured out the accounting, I figured out the finance, how to sell our guitars, how to market them, how to build the brand, and then over years brought in people and created departments, and those have grown. And now the people in those areas are better than I am at all of them. And my job for years has been really to mentor them, advise them, weigh in on the direction of things. So I've done myself out of a job in the last, 10 years or more. So this is more almost like a technicality rather than anything else. And it's perfect for me because it's not 100%, 0% in terms of involvement in the company. It's the next step down that path that we wanted with the transition to ESOP ownership.
Yeah.
That's
We've both
right.
been working our ways out of a job.
For a long
I
time.
started when I was 45. I got to start. You can't you can't turn something over to people so that they can develop themselves if you're the guy who's got to make all the decisions. So you start real early. No, I'm not going to go to that meeting, or I'm not going to go on that exciting trip to wherever. If I go, I'll suck all the air out of the room. Nobody will talk to you. They'll only talk to me. That kind of stuff. You have to start taking a back seat.
Yeah. Have someone else take the interviews, someone else make the decisions.
Yeah, so and you came here in 2011, Andy, and it was pretty apparent that, I mean, even as an outsider, Andy's here, the heir to Bob, really, when it came to manufacturing, how guitars are made, guitars are designed. But Bob and Kurt's partnership is the foundation. When we had you guys on the From the Factory podcast, we heard you guys talk about it. Bob brings up the story about, you know, what is the secret sauce of Taylor Guitars? Bob said on that very first meeting we had, Kurt brought a partnership agreement. So it was your organization. So Andy, well, let's go to you. Kurt, when did you know that Andy was
Smart enough?
doggone it, smart enough?
Handsome enough. It became clear to me when we were doing all the groundwork to prepare for the ESOP, which was probably 2020. And, I have to say, it took both of us, to create the company. Because you think back, Bob was 19, I was 21. We borrowed a few $1,000s. We didn't have much experience at all. We had a dream. We didn't know how to do things.
Right.
I had experience with being 18. A year's worth.
Yeah, and you made it to 19. But it would have been impossible for Bob or me to really be able to have created and established the company. It took a couple people to focus on the things they were interested in and that they became good at the more we worked on them. So, and it's different now. Now the company is established. We have established finance, sales, and marketing. So it doesn't need the same kind of leadership that it needed then to really start the company and get it established. So as we were working on the ESOP and thinking it through, I'm like, well, you know what? That guy is already here. We don't need to bring in some other guy with my unique set of skills. Andy has been working with sales and marketing since he joined the company.
Yeah, for a long time.
He's been working with me in finance for a couple years now, and really with finance to understand costing of our guitars a lot longer than the last couple years.
Yeah.
So Andy is completely up to speed on the things I do. Hopefully he'll still, have a few questions for me now and then, or seek a little bit of advice.
It's really fun because, it's like when Bob and Kurt approached me about joining Taylor, it was with this idea of continuity, right? We don't want this to turn into something. We want to continue going in the direction that we're going for the reasons that we do that. Okay, well, that means that guitar making, in the same way that it had been for me as a one-man shop, well, you got to wear all the hats. It's micro scale, but you got to be able to build the guitar, which means that you need to work upstream, find the wood for it, figure out how to prepare the wood for it, get your machines in order, get your tools in order, actually design the guitar, build the guitar. You have to be able to sell the guitar so you can get enough money to keep doing it again. Okay, well, that means that all of those same hats exist in the same way, but on a larger scale. All right, so it's all of those parts. And so when I see Bob and Kurt, it's a really unique partnership, and absolutely that is the thing that's made this work. It's like Bob describes, you build a foundation that doesn't crumble, a roof that's good and strong and doesn't leak. Okay, well, you need both halves. You need all the aspects of that. But when I look at how designing a guitar and going, well, what's the future of this guitar? What direction do we want to design into? Okay, well, that has to take into account a lot of different information coming from the wood itself. Where's this stuff coming from? What's it going to look like in 5 years? Okay, we better start sawing now. We better start planting now. You need the material that you can work with. Okay, well, you also have to take into account the other direction and go, well, can we operate a business on this?
Right.
What do musicians actually want? What's the direction that music is going? How are they going to be using their guitars? How are they going to record them? How are they going to amplify them? What's the stylistic influence? What's that going to feel like? Because you need to take all of these things into account to go, well, here's what I want to build. I'm going to build the right guitar for the right people at the right time. That's the goal, right? And that has to take into account every aspect of it. And so it's been really fascinating over the last 10 and more years now. Go, okay, well, here's how we're going to adapt this design to working within a factory and what we can manufacture. Here's how we're going to make this design and have it work with the materials that are available.
Right.
Okay, well, here's how we're going to make this guitar and be able to market it, distribute it, sell it, and be able to continue operating in the way that we want to operate. It's all of those aspects. So it's been fun to work with Kurt and look at it from one direction and work at it from the other direction with Bob going, okay, we're going to start planting trees, we're going to start sawing wood, and we're going to start building a marketing campaign. We're going to build a sales network. We're going to build a dealer network. And so it's a really exciting thing, and I'm hugely fortunate to get to work with both of these guys and appreciate their perspectives, while at the same time pick up the guitar and play and go, yeah, people will like this. This is a good guitar to make. This is an exciting thing. This actually has good purpose for what a musician wants to do with it. Now we're talking.
I appreciate people that can think conceptually. I try to give somebody a concept and see if they can develop that into actions.
Yeah.
And I find that there are a lot of people that take that. There's a book that someone gave me. It's just called Make Your Bed, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, make your bed. Everything else will be better that day.
I've heard about that.
You know,
Totally.
And there's people that just they don't get the concept of that. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what do I do next after that? You know, and
Yeah,
you're like, okay,
right.
you know, what do I do? Tell me the next thing to
Yeah.
do. Well, remember that now we just heard a super mature version from Andy after 10 years of being here, going on 11. And, but remember that Andy caught the concept when I first talked to him, and he was 28 years old. Now, everyone listening, think of the 28-year-olds you know, right?
Or yourself when you were 28.
Or yourself when you were 28. Now, me and Kurt were 19 and 21, but we were just starting. Andy was 19, starting in his garage. We started in a little tiny industrial building, wasn't much different, you know, so he learned all of those things on his own. But for Andy to be able to catch a concept and then put that into projects and plans and, you know, management strategies. And when you say, you know, I do the Ask Bob questions in wood and steel. It's like, have you ever tried, you know, such and such wood? And I'm like, boom, you know, to the person asking the question, it's like, I like that wood. Could you put it on a guitar? And to me, it's like, whoa, do you know the 400 things that have to fall in line for us to make a guitar with that wood? Right. You know, I can run a cocktail party really fast. Do you replant trees? Do you even know what you're saying? Then we learn to go, yeah, we replant them. And they go, okay, you know, right. We'll take care of all the details.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. I you know, I've been here for 6 years in April, and I've worked on pretty much every guitar launch out on the marketing side with Andy. So it's really exciting that we just get to continue working together.
Yeah.
So Andy, was there a moment that the idea of you becoming the two-headed monster became real? Were you surfing? All jokes aside. No, all jokes aside. Was there a moment?
It might have happened when the ocean was slamming against the ocean floor. It's like, if I get out of here, I want to be president and CEO.
No, actually, that was never really a thought. It was more focused on, because names and titles, Andy's always worked really well for me, so that's not really that big of a thing. My interest is in instruments. I love guitars. I love guitar business. I love guitar wood. I love musicians. I love hearing what they do with guitars. I love going into guitar shops. I still love that.
Really? You do?
Yeah, I do. I loved it as a kid. I still love it now. It's like, you know what? I really like being immersed in the guitar world. And so I never thought too much about what the titles were. 'Cause you go, yeah, they're names. Like you make up a name. You name one of your children. Okay, well, you thought of a name, and that's the child's name. That's a thing. And so it wasn't so much, I suppose there's like kind of prestige or status associated with that, but that wasn't really the intention here. The intention was, how do we operate with the way that remains true to our purpose? That's what I'm looking for. That's what matters to me. And so it was more of an idea, well, yeah, of course we would do this. This makes sense.
You and Martin gave your kids some pretty unique names.
Yeah.
Would you rather come up with unique titles rather than president and CEO?
Well, I think that's partly why we keep chief designer, because at our core, we're guitar makers.
Yeah.
Okay,
right?
good.
And that's why we even had some lengthy discussions about that to go, no, we're guitar makers. This is what we do. We build guitars. That's very important to me personally.
Yeah, first and foremost.
Right.
Kurt, that moment right there felt like I'm a combat veteran, and I was in Bosnia, and we were bored in Bosnia after a little while because there was a peace treaty, and we were trying to just make it through. So they had these soldier boards, right? I was eventually our division soldier of the year because I had to be questioned by a bunch of officers, and the way that you answered that was spot on, right? That's how that felt. It felt like he was just testing you, and you passed.
That's right.
All right, we're in good hands. So that was really exciting. Thanks.
I guess I should have paid closer attention.
Was there a moment for you guys? Was it that one time you guys went to a Padres game together and you were like, Andy's the guy?
No, I don't go to Padres games. Usually when I go to a stadium sports game, the first thing I think is the last time I'm going to come hassle with this parking to do this.
But didn't you throw out a first pitch at a Padres game once?
I did get to throw out a first pitch at a Padres game. Yeah.
Really?
And my buddy, who's a pitcher, bought a bag of baseballs and practiced me for 2 weeks before that, so I could get the ball that far. He's like, man,
Threw out the first pitch.
and then I learned before I got coached by him. He's like, do not stand on the plate. Go up, choke up, get closer, and throw it on the pitcher's mound. Get it across the plate. That's way better to throw it shorter and get it into that catcher's mitt than to stand back here and it bounce before it gets there.
Yeah.
So I took his advice and I did it.
Andy.
That was the last Padre game I was at. I love the Padres, but I'm just not a sports guy.
I was once having a conversation with Bob, and I said something about sports, and he cut me off and simply said, Jay, I don't care. Oh, that was a great moment.
There's lots of sports come in lots of different things. I kind of lump a lot of them together as ball sports. It's sports that involve a team and a ball of some kind, and that's one
There's
form.
other sports.
Yeah.
There's other sports, surfing. We'll get into that in a minute.
Cars are
Kurt
great
races
sports.
cars. I like going surfing.
Riding quads and Land Cruisers in the dunes. That's kind of sporty.
Motorsports. We could have a whole
We like tools. We like
segment on
machines.
motorsports, Kurt.
But it was really, I'll reiterate, it was working on the ESOP and all the preparations for that I said, wait a minute, this is probably the direction we should go. And I talked with these guys about it. They're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Kurt brought it up. We said, yeah.
That's incredible. So at other large instrument manufacturers, when you talk to the CEO, you aren't usually talking to their chief designer. It's very different here, right? When I stopped by to chat about this episode of Primetime with Andy, I mean, he had sawdust in his hair, and he was, I think, screwing in a strap button on a guitar or something like that. We are a guitar forward company. It's really exciting. We've got a president and CEO with proletariat hands and sawdust on him
And
at
Band-Aids
most of the
today.
times, and Band-Aids. So I think that we're in great hands. Andy, how do you think your role would change, beside expanded responsibilities and leadership, but how do you think this will change your daily routine?
Honestly, it doesn't change much. I mean, this is really, in a lot of ways, it's business as usual. It's what we do. It's what I like doing. And frankly, it's because we have such an amazing team of people working here that allows me to spend most of my time working on guitars. It's like the groundwork that Bob laid with production and with our production teams and our product development teams and our building maintenance teams and our machine maintenance teams, and the work that Kurt's done building our sales teams and our finance teams and our human resources teams. I'm so fortunate because we have amazing people that I get to work with all the time. I mean, we have industry veterans, we have people who are just like at the top of their game in their field. And that makes a lot of call it the more typical business parts of operating. It makes that really easy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I say easy too easy. It's work. It's a huge, heavy amount of work every day. But the folks that we get to work with are such professionals, and they're so good at what they do. It makes it a joy. It makes it a real pleasure.
I'd like to add something to that probably Andy can't say quite yet. But Kurt and I work with that exact same team. We built that team, and we're a collaborative company.
Right.
But he's still Kurt and I'm still Bob. And that means something when you go in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And so recently, I knew that Andy was on a go-to-meeting, and there was discussions about stuff, and I walked in and put a Post-it note on his desk. Walked in his room. I'm not in the meeting. I don't need to be in the meeting. I just walked in the room, and I put a Post-it note on his desk while he was meeting, and it said, "Remember, you're president and CEO." Put it down and walked out. It takes a while to remember that. That doesn't mean you're a bully or it all becomes your way, but it's that little bit of, that's when you go, you turn it up just that much more to begin to establish that. So it's like, because I don't think that, I think I need to remind him, and Kurt needs to remind him every once in a while that he is different and apart from everybody else. Even though everything he said about them is completely true and we believe it in the same way, Kurt is still Kurt. And that's a different thing than being one of the executive team.
Yeah, in fact, when we were deciding on our new roles, we decided on senior advisor. I suggested to Bob his new position could just be Bob, and Bob Taylor is now appointed by the board to be Bob Taylor. There is only one Bob Taylor. There will only ever be one Bob Taylor, right?
That would be incredible. What
Well,
would
there's
your
a song.
card say?
There's a song
Bob
I
Taylor.
got. There's a song I got once from a guy down in Kentucky, and he'd been thinking about our guitars, and he sent me a cassette, and he said, and my friend said, "Kenny Bird, you need to write a song." So I wrote a song about Bob Taylor, and the name of this song is Bob Taylor.
Bob Taylor, there you go. There you go.
Sang the song. It was incredible.
That's my point.
Bob Taylor.
Bob Taylor.
We're here with
Yeah.
Bob Taylor.
Yeah,
I had a friend, I had a woman who worked here once, and she had a little girl, and for the longest time, her daughter thought my name was Bob Taylor. Not Bob Taylor, Bob Taylor. One
Bob
word.
Taylor,
Yeah.
one word.
One word.
Yeah, that's like Jenny, one of her relatives was Dickie Boy. She's from Texas, right? Dickie Boy. Dickie Boy.
Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
Bob Taylor.
So it means your decision carries more weight.
Yeah.
That's
But
what
that
it
has
is.
to start inside.
Yeah, right.
It has to start inside, but it has to be delicately and administered with wisdom.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, totally.
Well, he's wise. But I just got to get something off the plate real quick. So we filmed a very special announcement with the three gentlemen here with me last week to show as an internal announcement video to our to our 1,500 employee owners. And after we wrapped, Kurt looks at Andy and says, Andy, now you're not going to go change a bunch of things. Andy, are you going to change a bunch of stuff?
Clean
Andy?
house.
Well, he already changed us from X bracing, so like what more can you do from that?
Exactly.
Well, funny you mentioned. No, you know what? Like I said earlier, I love what we do.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to work with a great group of people. I'm fortunate to work with my two partners. We love this. We love this company. We love the projects and the direction and the purpose that we do it with. Why would I change that? I don't see why that should immediately, why we would do something different. We love guitars.
Yeah, you don't change things that are working.
Yeah.
And Andy is like the epitome of guitar nerd. So we are a guitar forward company.
We are a guitar forward company.
He is a guitar nerd, and it is very exciting here on Primetime, not live, recorded, but here on Primetime to say congratulations to our new chief guitar designer, president, and CEO,
Well, thank
Andy
you.
Powers.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
And P.S. I hope Andy does change things for the better. And people
Like
ask
bracing.
People ask questions all the time. Every time I've done anything to a guitar, people go, "Well, is that going to change it?" And what they're asking is, what they're really trying to say is, that going to make it worse?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying, but they don't say, is that going to make it worse? They always, this has happened to me a million times. Is that going to change it? And for the first 20 years of my career, I thought, well, yeah, but, and you know, and I start going down the road. And then I got enough confidence, because this is what I think. It's like, of course it's going to change. It's going to make it better. And they're like, oh, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, feel free to change things, Andy.
Yeah.
Make it better.
And the purpose that you're asking about, or the context that you're talking about it in, is, yeah, you're going to make a change. You're going to make a guitar better. Okay, you're going to make a business change. You're going to make a business better.
Better for who?
That's the bigger question. And
Well,
now in our case, because we can make it better for the musicians that we serve, we can make it better for the suppliers we buy material from, we can make it better for the people who sell our guitars, we can make it better for our own employees. Okay, so when it's better and we make a change for the better, that's who benefits.
That's right.
There you go.
That's exactly right. A++.
That sounded like a president and CEO right there. That was
lot of wisdom in
that.
that.
Was a lot of wisdom.
No,
and it was magical. I'm super excited, Andy, to work alongside you in this journey. But you are a chief guitar designer. Let's
Right.
remember that. So the next little bit of news is we've got some new guitars that we launched. We do. We have some brand new guitars. The Koa, or the 700 series, is going Koa, and it's
Yeah.
extremely exciting. And I think
Is that going to change it?
it's going to change it.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah,
going
it's
to
gonna
change
make it
but-
better.
That's not going to change it, is it?
Well, the rosewood now sounds like Koa, and so does the spruce. But other than that, I would love if you could maybe play for a little
Yeah.
bit for us, and then we'll talk through the 700s. You guys want to stick around and
Yeah.
talk through these new guitars? That'd be exciting.
Thanks.
You even made that sound good with a Band-Aid on your finger. So is there a suggestion box for like new title? I know he just got a new title, but you guys are the co-founders, right? So can he be like chief guitar designer, president, CEO, and overall guitar ripper or something like that? Or
And he's a good player, that is for sure.
right? Jeez.
I just
people
always like
respect
playing the
that.
guitar. A guitar is just a fun thing to have. It's like a fun thing to have in your hands. I'm going to try to not play because we're talking now. I get it. But
It's never going to happen. You're going to play.
I'll be careful.
He's
I'll
going
be
to have to
careful.
put it down.
I will.
just
I'll
put his pick down.
Pick that pick down, but then I immediately want to do that and go. Guitar is just such a fun thing. Period.
What did I say?
And then when it becomes a good guitar, that's the best.
Like the ultimate guitar nerd. No jokes. You're witnessing this in real time. Whenever we film Andy for anything, he's noodling for like ever.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be.
It's like the old guitar. All the guitar player jokes are true. I mean, the only way to make us turn down is to put music in front of us, right? It's like the only way you get a guitar player to stop playing is go, yeah, here's just the song. You go, we all
At
choke.
least you're not the bass player or the drummer.
Well, you know, it's cool. The other
Right.
day, Andy and I were talking about roles, and he said, yeah, when I'm with guitar players, I present myself as a guitar player first and a guitar builder second. And he goes, when I'm with guitar builders, I present myself as a guitar builder first and a guitar player second, and he can do that. Mm-hmm. And I know now when he's with the bankers, they view him as a president and CEO first. and, they do. Different people pull out that attribute of yourself, but it's great that he holds all of those attributes. And I think it's great for our industry to have a large guitar company that has worldwide influence
Right.
in the way that we do, to have somebody at the top who can do all the things we just talked about for an hour plus play.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a great player.
Well, thank you. I
That's great.
appreciate that.
FYI, if you didn't know, you're a
You
really
know,
good player.
I always view that as depends on who I'm sitting next to. Mm-hmm. Because, man, I know some players that are just, oh gosh, they're just so good. You go, could I just play rhythm guitar in your band or something? I mean, wow,
Yeah.
So a lot of it is who are you sitting next to?
Yeah.
Sure. The greatest players that I've ever been around, they start realizing how much more is there to learn. How many times can you practice a C major scale? The correct answer is not enough.
Right.
Remember the time when Pepe Romero was here?
Oh,
And we were
gosh,
working
Pepe
on-
Senior.
Yeah, Pepe Senior, and he's like the tippy top, and we're doing stuff. We're messing around with some guitars, and then he's like, "Well, I have to go home now. It's 5:00, and I need to practice." And I'm like, "Oh!" He walks out, and I go, "He's Pepe Romero, and he has to go home and practice." And then he's like, "That's why he's Pepe Romero, because he goes home and practices."
Yeah.
So let's move. Let's put your builder hat on now. Now
Right.
you're talking like a guitar maker to us. Overview of our sustainability efforts in Hawaii. There's a lot of were there decisions that went into changing the 700 series and adding Koa to the line and or moving away from rosewood and spruce.
Well, for years we'd buy Koa, and you get what you get, and you buy guitar Koa, and that comes as really highly figured, burly, gnarly, like heavily variegated. It's beautiful wood. Sounds cool. You make a gorgeous guitar out of it. But when you're closer to the source, you see a bigger picture of what's available, what's really there, what is the forest really like, what's the wood really like, how much is there. In the same way that when Bob started going to Africa, he text me in the middle of the night going, I just learned that they're cutting 10 trees down to keep one that's black. And there's 9 that they leave to rot because they're stripy, except that it's beautiful. We're going to change this, and we're going to start using all of the ebony because it's really neat wood, and there's a lot more of it this way. Okay, well, it was similar with Koa. And so when we started with our colleagues we started looking further into Koa, sawing more logs, sawing more of the logs ourselves, where we'd, you see a log split open, you see what it really looks like, you see the colors, the striping, the graining, they go, oh, well, who's been keeping that from me? The only Koa I've ever been able to get is, this kind of Koa, and that's neat, but what about all this other stuff? It's great. We could build great sounding guitars out of this. So for the last several years, we've been pursuing that, going, we want like a middle grade. Maybe you have your plain wood. Sometimes we can use that for certain guitars. You'll see us build, we've built like 314s and things like that. It's good, nice, straight, honest wood. Doesn't look like a K-Series guitar because it's not heavily flamed and figured and very fancy like that. And we love those K-Series guitars. We love our Building Presentation Series guitars with it. But we started looking at this wood it was like textbook instrument grade wood. Straight grained, nicely quartered, beautiful to look at, good density, good tonal characteristics. Everything about it's right. And no one's really building guitars out of that. I sure would like to. So for the last several years, we started working with that and stockpiling the wood, sorting specifically for that, targeting certain logs for that. And now we get to introduce a new 700 series guitar that's an all Koa guitar made from its own unique select grade of wood, so we can have Koa in another flavor.
And I understand that it's with our partnership with Pacific Rim Tone Woods called Siglo Tone Woods that is allowing us to be able to select the Koa.
Well, let me jump in for a second. Us buying wood is the economic engine
Sure.
to replant Koa.
Right.
No, we can't reforest and restore forests in Hawaii by taking 1 out of 50 trees
Right.
and leaving the rest unsold,
That's
unpurchased,
right.
or to rot. So at Taylor, it serves both things. This is that someone asks about it, and well, there's 400 reasons for doing something.
Right.
And every one of them are legitimate. So we serve the forest by using this because this selling for Siglo to do the work that Siglo is doing, which is leave a forest in way better shape than you found it. Siglo needs to take out the appropriate trees, trade them for money to someone who's willing to buy them, and then use that money to restore the forest. That's the simplified version. It's more complex than that. And so for us it's a win-win, because everything that Andy said is like, yeah, there's this wonderful wood we can make guitars out of, but we have to have a place for it in our line.
Right, we got to make a spot for it.
Yeah, and so Andy did. He designed the appropriate guitar, and Koa's expensive wood. Whether you
Sure.
get the
Whether it's figured or not, it's expensive.
it's more expensive than any other wood that we buy on the whole.
Yeah.
And but that expense also bodes well for the forest, because a forest with low value on the market is just going to get converted to something else. But a
Yeah.
forest with high value to the market stands a chance of living in this world. And so this is our goal with this company that we call Siglo. Siglo.
It's a bit of a paradox, because in order to ascribe value to something, you have to be doing some level of commerce with it, right? That's what makes it protectable.
Yep.
Go, well, it's desirable. You want it, there's value there, and so you're going to balance that and manage it by going, yeah, you're making and selling something out of that. And that's what allows you to protect it, makes you want to replant it, propagate it, care for it. It's a very cyclical.
If there's commerce, then the funding source doesn't dry up. People think that reforestation should somehow be
It's not
a
benevolence.
philanthropic thing, but the funding sources always dry up, and then it stops.
Right.
Commerce doesn't dry up if you do it well.
That's what's happened with Koa in the past, actually. There was a lot of reforestation attempts 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Maybe not quite that long ago, but certainly 30 years. And it would start, and it was a well-intentioned, well-meaning project. And once that funding source dries up, or people, they miss certain aspects, like maybe they forgot to put fences up.
Whoops.
Whoops, all the cattle decimated
that.
it. Oh, so much for that project, didn't work.
I don't know the last time you spent money fencing 1,200 acres or 5,000 acres or
It's a big
500
thing.
acres.
It requires maintenance.
It's expensive.
Right. And so all of these projects, they have, they're multifaceted. And so in this case, I go, well, we want to do this with Koa. We have this material that's available. I really want to build a guitar with it. Okay, well, now looking at it from the other perspective, what kind of guitar should we be building? Well, we build these K-Series guitars. I love those. I love the way they look. I love the way they sound. It's my favorite way to describe it is you want a guitar that sounds the way it looks and looks the way it feels. Right. All the aspects of a guitar, the tactile element, the playing, the sound, the feel, the look, they all have to affirm each other, right? It's got to be like a cohesive thing. I love those guitars. But this is like, well, what other kinds of Koa guitar could you make? Well, I want a different voicing. I want a different finish. I want a different internal architecture, different bracing structure than this one because I like this, but it's not the only thing for every player. There's a lot of players who want a more direct sound. They want a more organic sound, something that's a little more player reflective. It comes in different forms. And so it was an exciting opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to do those things. We're going to use a different finish. We're going to use a different back bracing on this guitar. It's still a V-class guitar. You get the benefit of that. I love the way that works. But they are voiced differently. Even the back thicknesses are ever so slightly different. Minute, tiny bit different. But the way that you balance this thing in response becomes a different instrument.
And so we're launching two guitars.
Right.
We have a 724 CE, which you're holding in your hands, and then we have a 722 CE. So a grand auditorium and a grand concert. Two new flavors to expand the collection of Koa guitars throughout the Taylor line.
Yeah, they have a different feel, different response. It sounds like a Koa guitar. It's got that sweetness that we like. But they're just not the same because musicians aren't the same. We're all as unique as our own fingerprints.
So you talked about the different grade of Koa wood, but the ultra thin matte finish is really exciting for me as somebody who spends a lot of time with, in the studio. Actually, our engineer today here, Ben, who's off camera, but he's amazing. We heard this 724 for the first time under microphone or in front of a microphone, and it was just magical. We both it was one of those moments where Ben gave me a shout. He's like, you got to come in here and hear this. Why the ultra thin finish? What does that do for the instrument?
You have to think of the finish on an instrument as part of its recipe. Okay, every violin maker knows this. They live and die by it because we never play a raw wood instrument for good reason. It doesn't sound good. It's not good on an acoustic instrument because you get all this mechanical distortion in that. There's not enough damping to block out the types of vibration that would be just noisy. It's harsh. They tend to be kind of a strident, brittle sound. And when you start putting a finish on it, you start muting out that weak, kind of irregular vibration pattern.
That's interesting.
Too much is bad. Then you start stifling even the musical part you wanted. But a little bit of damping is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can use that to your advantage. Like when we build a K-Series guitar, we use the finish to our advantage. And that's why part of the characteristic of those instruments is this polished, almost like burnished, refined level sound that comes out of it. It's so smooth. It's like smooth as smooth could be. That's partly due to the finish that we put over it. With a guitar like this, we wanted something that was a little more direct and a little more player reflective. It feels like a more organic kind of response. This finish is ultra thin. I mean, you've heard us talk about ultra thin finishes in terms of our 814s or 800 series, where it's a thin polished finish. This one's thinner than that. This is you got a finish on there.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's a finish on there. And it looks great. It's beautiful. It demands high level of wood to begin with, good density and stuff. But it's the right kind of thing for this sound.
All right, Andy, so ultra thin finish. Thanks for walking us through that. Sound, what is the sound profile? I believe all the ingredients we've discussed play a role in that.
Yeah, everything matters, right? The guitar, it's a recipe, right? Where you've got all these different elements, and what you hear is not one specific thing. You're not hearing just a super, super thin finish. You're not hearing just this one grade of wood. You're not hearing just the internal architecture, the thickness. It's the mix of all these things because they all play off each other. Like for example, in the back, the end of the back braces is shaped a little different. The profile's different on all the back braces. How they interact with the lining is a little different. They have a little different stiffness at the tips. You know, it voices the back differently, but the back has an ever so slightly different thickness overall. So the two of those put together, plus this ultra thin finish, you end up with a very different voice out of that guitar. I mean, it's kind of like the minutia of how this thing is working,
Right.
but you look at a guitar and go, okay, well, it's made of, the things that are the same. It's made of Koa. It's a guitar. They both say like a K-Series and one of these 724s. They have the same V-class architecture
Right.
in name. But the reality is, well, they're doing different things. They're different voices, different recipes, different style of playing. It's noticeable enough that while we can hear the Koa commonality that's imparted by the wood, to me, they fit two different styles of playing. They fit two different players. So if you love the Koa sound of like a K-Series guitar, don't assume that this will have the same voicing, because it's not. It sounds like a guitar, right? So it sounds like a Koa guitar. I get it. It has 6 strings, same kind of tuning, like it's a guitar. But it's not exactly the same thing.
So we often talk about Koa as it gets sweeter with time. It breaks in. I've heard many different explanations, things like sit down with it, and 10 minutes later it's going to be better, and 10 minutes after that it's going to be better.
Yeah, very much.
So
My favorite is the first string change.
yeah,
Really, like you play on this brand new set of strings for a little while, and then you go to change the strings for the first time. Go,
it's like you're reborn, right?
right? It's like, man, that got a lot riper.
Yeah, they're really magical.
Yeah.
Now, ultra thin finish, you know, slightly different back bracing. Will these break in sooner? Will that warm up period or break in period shorten?
It'll get riper faster.
Really?
Is what'll happen. I mean, every guitars are wonderful in that the more you play them, the better they get. And that's sort of true for like all cool guitars. All good guitars will do that. They don't get worse as long as they're maintained well. They just get better. Now, most things that you buy, that's not true, but it's true for a guitar. Maybe like a baseball glove.
I was just thinking a catcher's mitt.
I'm not really the guy to ask, but you would be.
A baseball
Like,
glove, I mean.
it kind of wears in,
Yeah.
right? And probably gets a lot more flexible.
Or a nice pair of boots. I mean,
Yeah.
you break in a nice pair of boots, and it's
Like-
you don't want to. You might want to resole them, change the strings.
Yeah, I mean, I've
But if
worn
you-
the same pair of boots for the last 7, 8 years.
You've
And
had
they
those-
feel really good.
You've had those boots since I started working here.
Probably, right?
It's just part of the wardrobe, right, at this point.
Well, yeah, it's one thing I don't have to think about. But yeah, these guitars, they'll break in fast. They'll feel like they get ripe quickly.
Right.
Because the finish is so thin, and this thing will vibrate so freely as you start playing it. In some ways, you could expect the first set of strings to wear out a little faster
Interesting. Why is that?
because of the conditions that the strings are subjected to when they're fresh and it's breaking in. There's a lot of metal fatigue that goes on a fresh set of strings. So I would expect a set of strings that might wear out a little faster at first.
Metal Fatigue.
And then,
Also another band name. Metal fatigue. Andy
Right.
always drops band names.
Right.
Vector force and metal fatigue.
I'll never live that one down.
So good.
But yeah, these guitars will get ripe quickly. I mean, it's kind of fun. Like I have sort of this hobby orchard. I'm really into trees, right?
Right.
I like making guitars out of trees. I like growing fruit trees,
Right.
avocados and things like that. And, there's something that's just wonderful when you go out to a tree and you pick something off it and you go, oh man, this is like the most amazing version of what this could be, right? It's like you pick a peach off a tree and it's still warm from the sunshine. It's like one of the great experiences in life. Like a truly magnificent experience. Some guitars are like that. These guitars will be like that. When you take it out of the case, your first couple of chords, they'll feel good, but these things get ripe in a hurry.
Yeah.
And they really feel great.
They record well. They sound wonderful. And as beautiful as they look, I mean, they look gorgeous. Look at this thing. They almost have a beautiful, almost organic quality with that finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with the way that you feel like you're holding a almost raw, I know it's not raw, but almost raw piece of wood. What other appointments make that guitar stand out?
Well, that was part of it is I knew the way we wanted to voice the guitar.
Yeah.
I knew the kind of response I wanted to get out of it, but I wanted to take that directness and let the player feel more of the material.
Yeah.
And so part of that is the texture of the finish. It's what we call an open pore finish, where the vessels, like the cellular structure of this wood, hasn't been filled in. So you can feel that it's still like a piece of wood underneath the finish.
So cool.
Using rosewood for binding,
Yeah.
all wood purfling, real shell for the inlays. It's a fairly kind of minimalistic pattern, real kind of classic sort of thing. But all the materials are these very organic, natural kind of things to contribute to this experience.
Yeah, so the wood selection, I know we talked about wood grade earlier, but the wood selection, a lot of Koa guitars, from GS Minis to K Series guitars to Builder's Edition, K24 and K14 CE as well. K14 has a spruce top, but the hard top or the Koa top guitars have this array of color and figure.
Right.
What is this? I've seen a couple that are, looks like that sapwood or that, there's like a white stripe down the middle that looks super killer. And then there's some like these who are that are a little bit tighter. What is there purpose? Is it an accident? How does it happen?
It's using what the tree and what a forest can give you.
Got it.
Okay, so you target certain logs and go, well, this one would be ideal for making these parts or this grade of wood. Because when you cut into the log, you can see what's there. But that's really the only time you can't see. The rest is you look at the end after it's been fallen, you kind of speculate. But when you cut a guitar or a log like this open, you get to see what the color is like, what the figure is like, what the grain structure is like. You also sometimes see unwelcome surprises. It continues to be a real challenge, like with some of our urban wood logs. Cut that thing open, you go, oh, there was somebody's metal clothesline hook buried in that tree. Oh, darn, that kind of thing. You get to see what it looks like once you're inside. And so for these guitars, we're targeting material that has a really long, straight grain.
Oh, okay.
That's the goal. If they're well quarter sawn, which means that what you think of as the annual rings or the growth rings are perpendicular, mostly perpendicular to the wide face of a board, so perpendicular to the top or back or sides. It's a real nice stable cut, but what we're looking for in this case is the length of the wood fiber.
Got it.
So how long is it? How strong is it? It gives it a different character, different flexibility, different density, different sonic response than even we're splitting hairs here, but it's a little different than a top that has a lot of figure in it.
Got it. I think they're magical. I'm super excited to add Koa to the 700 series line or collection, we're going to get the question, and I know the feed right now is probably going crazy. What is happening to the 700 series as we know it? The 714 or the 712s?
As a rosewood guitar,
Yeah.
we're going to stop making those in that form right now. I really like those guitars. I especially like the Douglas fir herringbone or
Right.
half herringbone trim. I think that was really fun. And like anything, you do it for a while, and then you go, okay, well, we've done that. And that's okay. So I know those guitars are still out there. There's some that are still for sale probably. I know some players who that is their instrument, and I'm glad that they have it and get to enjoy playing it.
Yeah.
You know, and we like making rosewood guitars. We like making rosewood spruce top guitars. So we'll build lots of those. We'll make 814s. We make 914s.
Right.
We make 414s.
414,
It's a
412.
really cool guitar.
Really good guitars.
You know, there's a lot of different forms with a classic wood pairing like that.
Got it. And then, are there going to be other shapes? Right now, we're starting with a grand auditorium and a grand concert. Are there going to be other shapes?
I can
We're gonna-
imagine that day would come.
We got that.
Right
I got
now-
that. Is there going to be a GP question happening? I hear it. I'm reading it. It's there somewhere.
Maybe someday.
Awesome.
Maybe someday.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. You have the new 700 series Koa guitars. You know, it'd be cool if you could play us out maybe with the grand concert. We'll
Yeah,
switch guitars
sure.
real quick and we'll play that out.
We'll do that right now. Band-Aids.
I hate Band-Aids, he says. Dad, they're
Darn it.
beautiful, man. They're beautiful. I still think it's like a cheat code that you know how they're supposed to sound, though.
Well, they all do different things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like this guitar, it has this really pretty, like, chimey effect.
Yeah.
Like those top notes are like so good, right? So you kind of lean into the part that just feels really nice to play. I mean, it's almost like a mandolin or something, but it has that same chimey, solid quality everywhere. It's just a really nice, clear sounding guitar. So if you're doing that, well, that's really good, but maybe if you're playing it's like the definition's really nice.
Yeah.
just like a nice, clear, clean sounding guitar.
That's so good. You're such
I
a
like
good.
them.
You're such
I'm
a
having a
guitar
lot of fun
nerd.
with these. These are really
Like,
good ones.
This is our fearless leader. He is such a guitar nerd. It's like a guitar nerd heaven right here. It's fantastic.
We're having fun.
We are having fun. All right, Andy. So thank you for running us through the 700s.
Yeah.
It's great. We do have one last piece of information. It's short and sweet, but it's summertime. Travel
Right.
guitar season is back. In early mid 2020, we ran a sales promo called Taylor Days.
Right.
And we are bringing it back. Taylor Days. Rules? Yes. So Taylor Days is going to go from May 24th to July 11th, 2022. May 24th to July 11th. And here's the rules. Pretty simple. You can buy any. So remember, that's a buy a guitar, add a guitar for $99 or $199. So any guitar, any 200 Deluxe Series or higher. Hear what I said? That means you could get a new 700 Series guitar. You could do that. So a 200 Deluxe Series or higher guitar, if you buy one, you can add a travel guitar, a BT1, so a Taylor, Baby Taylor, spruce top Baby Taylor for $99, or a mahogany GS Mini for $199. Andy, you back this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Because I want people to be playing guitar.
Right.
And why this time of year? Well, part of it is the weather's nice. I want
Right.
people to be taking travel guitars out to the beach, to the park, on picnics. Like, what better reason could there be for like a Baby Taylor to exist?
Dude.
We can encourage people to play. Sometimes people graduate this time of year. There's things like that.
Dads,
But,
grads.
Yeah, man, it's super
what
fun.
else do we got? We got everything. Taylor
Yeah.
Days.
Yeah.
A Taylor Days
We're excited
promotion.
to get to do it.
Taylor Days promotion is back. However, it's only happening in the US, Canada, and Australia. There are rules and restrictions. You can head all over to taylorguitars.com, find out all the information, but your participating dealer may be taking part in this. So again, 200 Deluxe
Check it
Series
out.
guitar or higher, add a guitar for $99 or $199. Think about that. And then what? GS Mini, baby, they fit in the overhead bin.
Yep.
You can travel all over the world. They're not so precious. You can take them to the beach. I like that one.
They're a good beach guitar.
Hey, the case alone, put it on your back, go for a hike, stop, drink some water, play your guitar. I'm
Works out
designing
really
this
well.
like it should be. Let's go. All right.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Taylor Days. Thank you, Andy. Well, there you have it. This very extraordinary 75th episode of Taylor Primetime. Bob,
Wow. Yeah.
we did 75 things. I
Man.
know, but when we
That's
started this,
stick-to-itness right there,
Pretty
Jay.
incredible.
we started this, birthed out of a pandemic. You've heard me say it before, to bring a little light to a very dark time. We didn't know what was going on with this world that we're in, with a pandemic and all of this, and we just created this lighthearted guitar nerd talk show. We talk too much, right? They yell at us all the time
Yeah.
for talking too much, Bob. But
Silly.
we did it. We officially did 75 things, and I really wanted to have these three gentlemen here. Andy, once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Chief Guitar Designer, President and CEO of Taylor Guitars.
Yeah, Andy.
Bob, thanks you for joining the show again.
Yeah.
It's always fun to have you on the show. And Kurt, we can't thank you enough for joining us. It took 75
Thanks.
episodes.
I'll be back for the 150th.
Oh yes, that you hear it here. We got to do 100. We got to do 75 more of these. But there you
Sneak
have it.
up on you, Kurt.
There you have it. We won't do 2 minutes of sports. You know why? I don't care, Jay.
Instead, Andy can play us out.
Andy can play us out.
Watch back.
Thank you.
Right on.